Okay, Mr. Osaemeka, you can continue with your thoughts on the support and what more that needs to be done in rebuilding the Northeast.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, the point is there are different stages in this intervention that we have right now. You have the first stage is the emergency, which is where we are right now, and we're winding down on. The emergency aspect takes care of the immediate, okay? It takes care of the aspect of life-saving and support, the immediate life-saving and support. So most often, that's what you refer to as a humanitarian aspect. So it doesn't go into several other issues. Of course, there is a thin line between humanitarian and development. But of course, the humanitarian and emergency operations are short-term. They're not very long-term approaches you use when it comes to this kind of interventions such as this. So that's the first stage. When you're done with that, then you go into the developmental stage. I'm sure you recall that you are aware that a large percentage of the states in the southern part of Nigeria, and of course maybe a few in the north central, have actually experienced and are still enjoying a lot of presence of several development NGOs, both international and local, funded from different parts of the world. And that, the Northeast and more so Borno State have never enjoyed. I think prior now, what we had in Borno State was probably some institutional support from UNICEF and Pt.3 360, though I stand to be corrected. But before now, you've never had any serious developmental intervention in the Northeast, more so Borno State. So these response activities have actually given Borno State and of course the entire northeastern states of Nigeria the opportunity to experience and enjoy some measure of developmental assistance in a long-term process. So by the time you end this aspect of the emergency, then you can now get into the developmental aspect. I'll make it very clear. The spokesman for the government, clearly told you about the influx of returnees. We still have a lot of returnees coming in. As long as the military operations is going on, you will certainly have returnees. And the returnees are divided into 2 or 3 segments. You have those refugees who are coming from Cameroon, you have those coming from Chad, and you have those coming from Niger. So every border location in Borno State, most especially, are recipient locations for returnees. And when they come in, they usually don't come in good stead. Once they come in, they need direct intervention, they need support immediately. So they need food, they need nutrition assistance, they need medical assistance. And of course, you also make sure that there is proper, adequate water, they need psychosocial support. There's a whole retinue of intervention or response activity they need once they come in. So those are part of the emergency humanitarian activities that is needed. But in the longer term, of course, you can now talk about the other aspect of provision and, of course, the rebuilding process. So the rebuilding process is where the development aspect, goes for a very, very long time. So that's why I said to you that we have done a lot, yes, but it's still a very long journey. It's like a marathon that you just began, just leaving the starting line.
Okay, let's look at that issue of, bless you, the issue of donations. Mr. Gusau, let's start from there. So Osaemeka talked about donations from donor partners, non-governmental organizations, in terms of humanitarian and developmental, as the case may be. But let me ask you this. Before now, we've always heard about the Victim Support Fund. What happened to it?
Well, the Victim Support Fund, like I said initially, they made some intervention in Dikwa, and I think they made a donation of some building materials worth about 250 million naira or thereabout. And I know that they have given some money, either 20 or 30 million naira along that line, to some hospitals for response to emergency situations. And I also know that they have made some donation. I don't know the exact figure in Burma, but of course there's need to do more. But of course, I also know that the Victim Support Fund did also complain that majority of pledges, most of those that made pledges during the fundraising in 2014 under the Jonathan administration, actually didn't redeem, some of these pledges. That is a challenge on their part, but we are very optimistic that significant support will come, from the federal government but what is important to Governor Shettima is the fact that there is the political will from the Buhari administration. All the international NGOs that are coming to support the Northeast today would not come if they do not see transparency on the part of the federal government, they do not see commitment, and there's a lack of political will. So whatever it is that comes to the Northeast, so much credit would still have to be given to the federal government, because the Boko Haram crisis didn't start today. We had all these problems actively since 2013 when they took over territories. NGOs, most of these international organizations didn't actually come until 2016. So you'd ask yourself, why didn't they come earlier? Because they have seen the political will, they have seen there is genuineness, there is sincerity in the fight, and they are sure that they would be enabled to do their work well, and that's why the support is here. We are optimistic that the major support that we look forward to, particularly with regard to the Burma initiative, which was discussed, at the level of the presidency, would eventually come. But before that comes, Governor Shettima feels that we cannot wait in vain. So that's why the Borno State government is leading the process of the reconstruction. Like I said earlier, so much has been achieved by the Borno State government, but the state government cannot do it alone, because we are grappling with a lot of challenges, but then we are optimistic that we'll get the major support I think Borno State deserves, from the federal government.
So I guess your government was happy when you heard about the $1 billion approved by the government, even though that's generating plenty of controversy.
Well, before I came here, I was talking with Governor Shettima. Governor Shettima, is a university lecturer. He reads a lot. I told him I was coming to channels. I was likely to be asked something about this $1 billion. And he said, look, before you go, let me give you a chapter of a book to read. He gave me a chapter of one book that is titled The Psychology of Crime. Part of what I picked from it is that the most guilty people are always the most suspicious. Even in our homes, whenever you discover that a man who does not have a good reason to suspect his wife is always questioning her when she leaves, there is the likelihood that he's a bad guy. So he transfers his bad characteristics to the wife. So most of the political actors that are shouting against this $1 billion is probably because they are assuming that the Buhari administration will do what they do or what they would have done. Look, the APC has got a very big number. Some people are saying that the money is to fund the 2019 elections. Look, the APC has got 24 states and the federal government. If they are to say, okay, look, they sit down and say, let's approve $1 billion to be shared to all the governments of the 36 states and the federal government, and then the APC, 24 states and the federal government decide to forfeit theirs for the sake of election, you'll be talking about $750 million. And I mean, that should be what they need. And then, like the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum did say, this is not the first time. In the past, there had been instances where the Nigerian governors donated as much as $2 billion to a previous administration under the now opposition party. I think Nigerians should give credit to the Buhari administration for being transparent, because it is now that we are even getting to know that there was that kind of donation in the past.
Okay.
So what is happening is that Nigerians are responding to transparency. We are used to a system where a lot of things were being done in the hidden, so we assume that all was good in the past. But what was happening in the past was just a sort of conspiracy against the Nigerian people. But now everything that is being done is being brought to the public for, and we are just responding to it. And I think gradually we will get to, to appreciate this. this fund is meant to fight the insurgency. Like Governor Shetima